Welcome to Underworld Recaps. Today we explore the tragic life of a crime prince who traded his soul for approval. Our story begins in a mansion that looked more like a fortress, a place where secrets were buried deep within walls. Born into immense wealth, the boy lived in a golden cage, surrounded by luxury, but starved of the one thing he needed. He possessed every toy imaginable, yet his heart remained empty, constantly waiting for a father who was always absent on business. His father was a titan of the underworld, a man who commanded fear and respect, but had no time for affection. Desperate for attention, the child threw himself into his studies, believing that academic excellence would finally earn him a smile. He presented his achievements like offerings to a god, hoping for praise, but he was met with cold, crushing indifference. To a man who ruled by violence, school grades were meaningless. He saw his son's gentleness as a weakness to eradicate. The rejection planted a seed of darkness in the boy's heart, a desperate need to prove he could be strong. Years passed and the tears dried up. The sorrow was replaced by a quiet, simmering resolve to become someone else. Birthdays were usually silent affairs, celebrated with staff rather than family, reinforcing the isolation that defined his entire existence. But on his 13th birthday, the father appeared. He did not bring a toy, but something that would change everything. Inside the velvet-lined box lay a cold steel revolver. It was not a gift for a child, but a test. He was led down to the soundproof basement, leaving the comfort of his childhood behind with every step he took. In the center of the room sat a traitor, bound and beaten. The air smelled of rust, fear, and impending death. The father commanded him to pull the trigger. He said this was the only way to prove he was a man. Fear paralyzed him. His moral compass screamed against the act, but the desire for his father's approval was much louder. He was told that hesitation was for the weak. To lead the pack, he had to be willing to kill. In that moment, he had to choose between his soul and his father. He took a breath and made his choice. The gunshot was deafening. It signaled the end of his childhood and the beginning of a life soaked in blood. He dropped the weapon, staring at his hands. He felt sick, but then he looked up and saw something new. For the first time, his father looked at him with pride. That validation was a drug he would forever chase. The boy who entered that basement never came out. In his place stood a monster in the making, cold and ruthless. As he grew, he immersed himself in the family business. He learned the trade not from books, but from violence. He honed his skills, becoming a marksman and a strategist. He wanted to be useful, indispensable, and undeniably powerful. By his late teens, he was commanding his own crews. His reputation for brutality began to rival even that of his father. He didn't just defeat his enemies, he destroyed them. He used excessive force to ensure no one would ever question him. His father watched this transformation with a mix of pride and unease. The weapon he created was becoming dangerously sharp. He realized the old ways were inefficient. He wanted to modernize the empire, to bring order to the chaotic underworld. He proposed new methods of laundering money, but his father was stuck in the past, dismissing the ideas as unnecessary. Undeterred, he started his own side venture. He opened a chain of mattress stores, a perfect front for his operations. The stores were always empty of customers, yet they generated millions. It was the perfect machine for cleaning dirty money. Cash flowed in from the streets and came out as legitimate business profit. He was building an empire within an empire. His success brought him immense wealth. He flaunted it, not just to enjoy it, but to show his father his worth. Rival families began to respect the son more than the father. He was smart, ruthless, and incredibly profitable to work with. The father's pride turned into jealousy. He saw his son not as a successor, but as a threat to his throne. Tensions rose during family meetings. The father criticized the new methods, trying to assert dominance over the son he created. He swallowed the insults, playing the role of the dutiful soldier. But deep down, the resentment was boiling over. He continued to expand, ignoring his father's warnings. His influence now stretched across the entire city, undeniable and vast. He orchestrated a massive takedown of a rival syndicate, a move that should have cemented his legacy as the heir. The underworld cheered for him. It was his moment of glory, the pinnacle of his career as a crime lord. But then, his father took the stage. He couldn't stand the spotlight shining on anyone else, even his own blood. He publicly claimed credit for the victory, dismissing his son's efforts as merely following orders from the true boss. He went further, humiliating him in front of the men he led. He called him a boy playing a man's game. Something snapped inside him. The years of seeking validation evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard realization of the truth. He left the party without a word. The admiration he once held for his father had turned into a lethal poison. In the solitude of his home, he raged. He realized he would never be good enough while the old man lived. The rage subsided into a chilling calm. If he couldn't inherit the crown with blessing, he would take it by force. He gathered his most loyal soldiers. He needed to know who would stand with the future and who would die with the past. The coup was planned with surgical precision. It had to be swift, silent, and absolute. There was no room for error. The night of the betrayal arrived. The storm outside mirrored the violence that was about to be unleashed within. He entered the home he grew up in, not as a son, but as an executioner coming to collect a debt. His men moved like shadows, neutralizing the old guard. The path to the throne room was cleared with blood. He stood before the office door. Behind it sat the man who made him a monster. It was time to show him the result. He walked in. His father looked up, not with fear, but with a sudden, dawning realization of what was happening. No words were exchanged. The history between them was too heavy for conversation. Only the gun spoke the truth. The old man didn't beg. In a twisted way, he seemed almost relieved that his son finally had the guts to do it. He pulled the trigger. The king was dead. The reign of the father ended, and the tyranny of the son began. He took the ring from the cooling hand. It was cold, heavy, and stained with the legacy of 1,000 crimes. He emerged as the new dawn. The underworld bowed to him, but the victory felt hollow, like ash in his mouth. He buried his father with full honors, playing the grieving son perfectly. The world saw a tragedy. He saw a transition. Under his rule, the organization became a global powerhouse, but he was more ruthless and paranoid than his father ever was. Paranoia became his constant companion. He saw betrayal in every smile, a knife in every shadow. He trusted no one. He purged his own ranks, killing anyone who showed even a hint of ambition. He was ruling a kingdom of ghosts. The bloodshed attracted attention. The law began to close in, circling his empire like sharks smelling blood in the water. Loyalty is expensive, and fear only works for so long. His top lieutenant decided to sell him out for immunity. The raid came at dawn. The empire he built on mattresses and murder crumbled in a single morning of sirens and steel. He was paraded before the cameras, a fallen king in chains. The public cheered, unaware of the vacuum his fall created. The trial was swift. He was sentenced to life in maximum security, stripped of his wealth, his power, and his name. Prison was a different kind of jungle. Here, his money meant nothing. Only his reputation as a killer kept him alive. He spent his days in isolation, haunted by memories of the father he killed and the life he wasted. But the past has a way of catching up. A new inmate arrived, a young man with eyes full of vengeance. He recognized something in the stranger's face, a resemblance to a ghost from his past, from that basement long ago. It was the son of the traitor he executed on his 13th birthday. The cycle of violence had come full circle. There was no escape. The young man approached him, driven by the same need for validation that once drove him. He didn't fight. In that moment, he realized his father had likely let him kill him to escape this hell. The blade pierced him. As he fell, he felt a strange sense of peace. The burden was finally lifted. Lying on the cold concrete, he looked up at the patch of gray sky. He was just a boy again. He died alone, a victim of the very world he tried to conquer. The cycle of blood was finally broken. Thank you for watching this tragedy unfold. Don't forget to subscribe to Underworld Recaps for more dark stories. His life was a chess game where every move was forced. He never had a choice, only the illusion of one. In the end, he became exactly what he hated. The mirror reflected his father, staring back with the same dead eyes. While other children played, he was molded into a weapon. His innocence was the price paid for a criminal dynasty. That gun at 13 didn't just kill a traitor, It killed the boy's potential to be anything other than a killer. His business acumen was brilliant, yet wasted. The mattress empire was a genius facade for a rot that went deep. Perhaps the father provoked the son intentionally. He knew that only death could retire a king from this life. And now, the killer in prison carries the burden. He has avenged his father, but lost his own soul too. The city moves on. New bosses will rise, new blood will spill, and the story will repeat itself endlessly. This story serves as a grim reminder that power built on violence is a castle built on shifting sand. We mourn the child he could have been, before the suits, the guns, and the darkness took him away forever. No monuments stand for him, only a forgotten grave in a field of sinners, lost to the sands of time. His empire crumbled instantly. The stores closed, the money vanished, proving that criminal legacy is always temporary. His loyal men moved on to new masters. In the underworld, loyalty is rented, never owned, and the lease expires quickly. The throne remains, waiting for the next fool to sit on it and believe they can control the chaos. It was a tragedy of blood, a father who couldn't love and a son who killed to be loved. Could he have chosen differently? Perhaps not. The path was paved for him before he even took his first step. His true self was left behind in the pages of childhood, buried under layers of armor and necessary cruelty. The law considers the case closed. Justice was served, not by the courts, but by the savage laws of the street. The young killer now stares at the same bars. He thinks he won, but he has only just entered the game. That smile in the basement was the curse. It validated the worst sin and doomed the boy to a violent end. All the money in the world couldn't buy him another day of life, nor could it buy him peace. The mansion stands empty now, a rotting shell. Legend says you can still hear the echoes of a lonely child. We watch these stories to understand the human condition, to see how far a soul can fall when starved of love. It reminds us that the greatest legacy we can leave is not power or money, but kindness to our children. But in the underworld, kindness is a liability. Here, only the ruthless survive, and even they eventually meet their end. He was a prince of crime, a king of mattresses, and finally, a prisoner of his own tragic destiny. From the cradle to the grave, his life was a violent scream that went unheard by the people who mattered most. Look closely at his eyes. You can see the boy dying, replaced by the monster, piece by painful piece. The storm is past, but the wreckage remains. A cautionary tale written in blood on the streets of the city. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the criminal mind, make sure you are subscribed to Underworld Recaps right now. Hit that like button if you want more stories like this. Tell us in the comments, was he a victim or villain? Next week, we will cover the story of the Black Widow, a woman who used beauty as her deadliest weapon. This is Underworld Recaps, where we uncover the darkness hiding in plain sight. We bring the shadows to light. Credits are rolling now. We appreciate your support in helping this channel grow into the best crime recap community. Check out these other videos on the screen. We have a vast library of true crime and fictional underworld stories. Thank you for spending your time with us. We know you have many choices, and we appreciate you choosing us. Stay safe out there. The world is a dangerous place, and you never know what is hiding around the corner. Until next time, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. This has been a presentation by Underworld Recaps, signing off. Remember, every empire falls eventually. Make sure yours is worth the price you pay to build it. Underworld Recaps, watching the darkness so you don't have to. See you in the next video. Goodbye.